All right, in today's episode, I'm really excited to welcome our next guest. I will give her an opportunity to introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Alicia Mullery. I have a dual role. I am a senior director at Gartner. I work with IT executives, advising them on their strategy and transformation. And I am also a certified life coach, where I work with successful female millennials who just aren't happy. And I came to this work because, I've spent 13 years at Gartner. I've had a lot of fun, traveled all over the world. I now live in London. I have this beautiful life. And from the outside, people would say, wow, your life is perfect. But it didn't feel perfect from the inside. It felt like, is this really all there kind of is? And so I had to do a lot of soul searching to figure out, what do I want? What does fulfillment mean? And now that I've learned a lot of that and the tools, now I use that with my clients and with the executives I work with.
Yeah, that is really fascinating. Give us a sense, Alicia, when you think of kind of that gap between your personal goals and your professional goals as it relates to how you impact leaders, how does that work for you and how would you define that?
Yeah, so it's interesting because I've done a lot of work on my personal mission statement in the last year. And borrowing from some mentors of mine, my personal mission statement is, I want to be an example of what is possible in the world. And I bring that everywhere. I bring that when I'm working with my clients. I bring that when I'm working with executives. I bring that when I'm working with colleagues at Gartner to help, more junior staff work in a new way. To be honest, you could put me on McDonald's right now and I would still try to be like, here's what is possible. This is what we could do. And that brings a light and a joy and an authenticity to me. And was kind of a surprise. It wasn't an intention, but I see it infecting others. They get excited with that too, which makes me more excited. So it's a really, virtuous cycle.
Absolutely. I mean, all of those concepts, light, joy, authenticity. I mean, we could spend hours, really breaking down those concepts. But let's pick up on the authenticity point. I believe that your authenticity is your competitive advantage. I really believe that across all facets of life. So give us a sense for why you started your own life coaching firm and how you think that helps to drive your authenticity.
This is such a good question because as a woman, I feel like society has told us, you have to be this way. You have to be nice, but not too nice. You have to be smart, but not too smart. And finding your own authenticity as a woman can sometimes be challenging because it might make others uncomfortable. And so for me, when I hit that point of feeling unfulfilled, even though I checked all of society's boxes, I had to uncover, well, what do I really want? I had to break down a belief system that society had given me. And so when it came to authenticity, I didn't even know what was the authentic me until I broke that system down. And that's what life coaching gave me. And why I started it, my business, was because I wanted to bring that to other women as well who were facing the same struggle that I was facing.
How important would you say, just picking up on that point of, helping your clients engage with different struggles, right? And, as you know, Alicia, struggles come in different shapes and sizes. How do you think setting goals really helps drive the management of different struggles and challenges?
Yeah, I think goal setting is so important. I'm all about being present, and there's a school of thought that don't set, be present, don't worry about the future. But what I have found is a few things. When you set goals, one, that forces you to create a new life. Our brains just want to keep repeating the things we know. So if you don't set an actual goal, you will never create a new life. And I want to keep pushing myself to grow beyond where I am. So to me, that's one of the most powerful things of goal setting. And one of the things I found as I started my own journey of setting stronger goals for myself is everybody says they have a goal, right? Everyone knows intrinsically it's good. They'll say they have a goal, but everybody's goal is very high level and fluffy. It's not measurable. It's like, one day I want to have a family and be happy. But what does that mean? So I think goal setting is really important and getting very specific. So putting a timeline, using things like smart systems around goals, which a lot of executives will do. We do it at work. Do we do it for our own personal life? I think it's a pretty big gap for a lot of people.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. You mentioned using smart tools and systems to define the specificity of goals. And Alicia, you work with executives and I work with attorneys. And, when you engage with individuals that are in high performance expectation capacities, I mean, how do you help them define specific and SMART goals?
I think one of the big questions that I will often ask them is, when you talk to an executive, they'll often have like a company line and a high level tagline that we all know. We want a digital transformation. We need efficiency, and all the words that don't mean a lot. I ask two questions, honestly. I say, how will you know when you have that? Which suddenly pulls them down and makes them get really specific. How do you know when you have that? Or if you get on the call and sometimes you get an executive who's super in the weeds, they'll be like, well, we need to have an SAP, ERP, blah, 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 blah. And I'll go, absolutely. What's that going to get for you? And that's my other question to like pull them back up. And that just starts the conversation for us to have, what is it you're really looking to achieve?
Yeah.
That's usually how I try to bring them in.
Yeah, that's brilliant. So this point about raising the altitude or lowering the altitude of expectations and performance expectations specifically. So give me a sense of just your definition of value. So in those interactions, let's say an interaction like that goes really well. What would be the value proposition in your mind, and how do you define and outline that?
Yeah. So to me, value with either the executives I work with or with my clients, correct, is I want to know, it's often one of two things. Have I changed their mind in some way? Are they seeing the world in a different way than they have before? Or at least are they open to the possibility of a new way of seeing things? Because we're all, as we've seen very much in the US, for example, we are all very sure of our view of the world, and this is how it is. So one piece of value to me is like, have I shown them to see the world in a different way? And then the second way that I define value is, have I inspired them into action? Because not just have I given them a whole list of things to do, because nobody's going to just add a million things to their to-do list.
Yeah.
I feel a huge part of my job is to inspire them of what is possible, right? Be an example of what's possible, inspire them on all the things that they could do so that they are mad excited to get off the phone and go do something different. Those are my two measures of value.
Yeah, great success measures. I love that. And then the last question, Alicia, is what impact do you want to have, when you think of your dual roles and the impact that you are already having? What type of a future impact looking forward would you want to have?
Yeah, this is such a good question. And it's a hard one to answer when you think about like your big future.
Yeah.
I would love, with my coaching business, I would love to work with hundreds of women to help them stop defining success by external measures, right? We think, if I get the bag, if I get the car, if I get the job, if I get the kid, think of every advertising you've ever seen. If I get the things, they'll make me happy. Yeah. And I want to work with women for them to feel, no, this is how I create the feeling I want. And when I have that feeling, then I can create the external pieces. That to me is like the outcome I really want to inspire women for. And with executives, a slightly different goal. What I want them to do is, every time I work with an executive, I like to be very pragmatic. They have lots of theory. They don't need more theory. I want to work with them to say, great, you have all these ideas. How are you going to change the status quo of where you are?
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. And I personally believe that change, we can't really change anybody else. We can only change ourselves.
That's a good point.
And if you're an executive and you want to lead, you have to do a lot of that by example, and you have to examine. I was working with a client recently where we were talking about behavior loops, where if I want someone to change their behavior, they're acting a certain way, probably because I'm acting a certain way. And then we get stuck in this behavior loop, right? Like I want them to be more entrepreneurial, but I lead them in a way that's asking them
sort of
exact question. So I create a behavior loop. And I think what I want to work with executives on is thinking about, how do you personally need to change? What are the things you want to mirror or, and share for your audience, for your teams, for the people that you need to inspire to change?
Pure excellence, Alicia. Wow. So look, thank you for the impact. Thank you for your time investment. And I just believe gratitude is undefeated. So I really appreciate your time. Any closing thoughts or words for us?
Thank you, Chuki. No, this was so great. It's great to be a part of your podcast. And I think it's so important to think about, this kind of work mindset, think about authenticity. I think if the world considered these things, we'd be in a very different world, which we need.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
And you could just drop the mic on that, right? Thank you so much.